Welcome back, focus learners. So, let me guess. You've definitely walked out of an hour-long meeting, sat down at your desk and wondered, wait, what on earth did we actually just decide? If that sounds familiar, you are absolutely in the right place. Today's explainer is all about taking back our time and our mental energy. We're unpacking some really incredible insights from productivity expert Roya on how to completely fix unproductive meetings. We're going to dive into a fascinating psychological concept that will literally change how your team collaborates.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, the choice paralysis problem. Then, understanding Hicks Law, looking at decision fatigue at work, streamlining your meetings, and we'll wrap up with action items and outcomes. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The choice paralysis problem. Why we get stuck. Before we can actually solve anything, we really have to identify the root of the issue.
Have you ever felt completely paralyzed by just having way too many choices? Think about your own everyday experiences for a second. Have you ever stood there just staring blankly at a massive wall of toothpaste at the grocery store? Or, scrolled through a streaming service for 30 minutes only to just turn the TV off? That intense feeling of friction isn't some sort of personal failing, it's a universal pain point. The human brain simply is not built to effortlessly process a massive influx of options all at once.
And look, this right here is the absolute core problem in the modern workplace. An overwhelming abundance of options directly leads to slower, agonizing decisions. It's like a computer lagging. When you're presented with too many choices, your brain literally has to evaluate and compare every single one of them before it can make a move.
Moving right along to Section 2, Understanding Hicks Law, the Psychology of Choice. It's time we put a scientific name to that incredibly frustrating feeling.
So let's define the actual science behind the friction. This is Hicks Law. Named after psychologists William Edmund Hick and Ray Hyman, it basically states that the time it takes to make a decision increases as the number of choices grows. And this isn't just a hunch, right? It's a measurable mathematical reality. The more variables you introduce into any given situation, the more time the human brain requires to process them and finally pick an outcome.
Roya really hits the nail on the head with this simple, powerful equation. More options equals slower decisions. It honestly is that straightforward. If you want to speed up a decision, you absolutely must reduce the number of options on the table. Once you start looking at work through this equation, you instantly start to see exactly where your workflows are falling apart. Because this concept governs our everyday lives. It's the exact reason why a bloated 20-page diner menu takes forever to order from. It's why swiping through hundreds of apps on your phone feels so draining. But most importantly for us, it is exactly why meetings with endless discussion points just go absolutely nowhere. You're basically forcing everyone in the room to navigate this massive, chaotic menu of topics all at exactly the same time.
All right, Section 3, Decision Fatigue at Work, the Hidden Cost. Let's examine how this psychological principle specifically wreaks havoc on our productivity. Because here's the thing. When we ignore Hicks Law in a professional setting, it actively harms the organization. In business, slow decisions lead to lost time, missed opportunities, and highly unproductive meetings. The modern workplace is just an absolute minefield of decision fatigue. Think about it. By the time your team sits down for that 2 p.m. strategy sync, they've already made hundreds of micro decisions that day. Asking them to evaluate 10 different options for a new project right then, that's just a recipe for total gridlock.
This contrast is huge. Actually, scratch that. It's absolutely crucial. While endless choices trap us in decision fatigue, actively reducing those choices frees up our mental energy for actual execution. When you spend way less cognitive power agonizing over what to do, you naturally have vastly more energy available to just go and do it. And that is why Hicks Law is a total game changer for team collaboration.
Section 4. Streamlining your meetings. Applying Hicks Law. Okay, we know the theory. Now let's look at Roya Bloom's highly structured toolkit for actually fixing our meetings.
Here is the high-level, 4-step methodology to instantly apply Hicks Law. Step 1, reduce agenda overload. Step 2, present fewer choices. Step 3, use preset frameworks. And Step 4, assign clear next steps. Let's break these down.
Step 1 is reducing agenda overload. 3 to 5, that right there is your new strict limit. You need to keep your meetings focused on just 3 to 5 key topics. You've got to abandon that doomed 10 to 15 topic list completely. A super long agenda just forces attendees to split their attention, and according to Hicks Law, that always leads to longer discussions and far fewer concrete decisions. Keep it tight, keep it focused.
Moving to Step 2,
present fewer choices beforehand. Asking a super broad question like, hey, what should our next campaign look like, just opens the door to endless unstructured brainstorming. It completely violates Hicks Law. Instead, you've got to do the heavy lifting before the meeting even starts. Say something like, here are 2 to 3 refined options to choose from. See the difference? That forces a concrete decision rather than just a theoretical debate.
Now for step 3, use preset decision frameworks. By intentionally limiting your decision variables, you really speed up consensus. Instead of asking a room to evaluate a project on 100 different random metrics, force the choice through very specific criteria. Are we going budget-friendly or high investment? Is this short-term or long-term? Low risk or high risk? The more structured that decision-making process is, the faster the meeting will ultimately wrap up.
Finally, Section 5, Action Items and Outcomes, Sealing the Deal. Let's look at the fourth and final step of our framework, which is exactly how to close out a Hicks Law optimized meeting.
Step 4 demands that we completely eliminate post-meeting uncertainty. You do this by strictly defining these 3 highly specific, limited action items before anybody is allowed to leave the room. Who is responsible? What are the next 1 to 2 steps? And what is the deadline? Notice it doesn't say what are the next 10 steps. It intentionally limits the scope. By keeping these items limited and specific, your team can actually move forward fast without getting bogged down in ambiguity.
So, what does this all mean for us? The ultimate takeaway is crystal clear. Applying Hicks Law reduces decision fatigue, dramatically speeds up your discussions, and replaces analysis paralysis with actual, clear outcomes. Structuring your choices gives your team speed and confidence. You finally stop wasting energy on the agonizing process of deciding, and you start pouring that energy into the actual work. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Open up your calendar right now. Look at your very next meeting. Honestly, how many items are on that agenda? If it's more than 3 to 5, well, it's time to start cutting. Apply Hicks Law today and just watch how much faster your team moves. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, Focus Learners, and I'll catch you next time.